Ladies and gentlemen, it is pretty safe to say that the new Gacha revenue report has been released. And of course, we all know something very important when it comes to these numbers. They're all guesstimates. They're all completely made up. And one of the fundamental parts about this chart is that, well, they take estimations from one Google Play Store or like some Google Play Store analytic, and then they just put it through some arbitrary multiplier of about 1.75 to 2 to determine what these numbers are at the end of the day. The ones that you're seeing on the right over here. And when it comes to the various gacha games that have been on the market and performance across February, according to the guesstimations, well, Wuthering Waves did pretty damn good. Some could say actually even better than games under the Hoyoverse umbrella like Zenless Zone Zero, according to the estimations, right? And you can see over here that the numbers are actually looking pretty good for WuWa. But this is the thing, and this is kind of like the best part about the response from the Wuthering Waves community when it comes to these numbers. And I like this a lot. WuWa has arguably done very, very well, right? Relative to a lot of other games in the space and relative to its own records too. Jumping up from 14, I believe, in the last month's report all the way up to number 7. But this is how the Wuthering Waves community decided to receive the news. They locked the thread. The mods locked the thread and did not promote any discussion, even though this month's numbers were very, very, very good. And this is the thing. When it comes to the Wuthering Waves community, they understand that these numbers are pretty bullshit. They understand that these numbers aren't telling the whole story. You can see over here, one of the top responses is, real question, are you guys spending on mobile? Because unlike Genshin or HSR that are mobile friendly, I cannot play on mobile. And then there's so many people talking about how they spend on PC, how they spend on the PS5, how they have all these other methods of like topping up that really are understating what these revenue numbers are. People talking about how it's an absolutely torturous experience to play WuWa on mobile. This is also one of the top upvoted posts at 115, right? It's a couple of comments down, might have been brigaded a little bit. Are there no moderators here? It's been said thousands of times that this site gives false estimates because they use a 1.75 multiplier for CN side, and what's necessarily at the top on iOS isn't on Android. This is amazing. I don't know if a lot of people in the space have recognized this, but this is amazing. Because what this means is that the Wuthering Waves community as a whole isn't going to be convinced by the whole like drama baiting, the whole like war that is always going to happen and is always going to be at the forefront every single month when it comes to Reddits like r/gacha gaming, when it comes to communities like r/Hoyo gaming. Because of course, what a lot of people recognize is that this subreddit, this discussion thread, which has over 2,500 comments, is just a breeding ground of absolute garbage, right? And people at this point are just like making jokes about it, right? My game is better than your game, so that they can, I guess, feel the vibrations from all the responses later. People are just talking about, you know, all of the gachas that are going down. People are just talking about how everything's going to be EOSing. All it is, all of the time, is just war. It's just war to try to like put down games, to put down franchises, to talk about, you know, make jokes about like EOSing. And the thing is, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to keep up with this discourse. And the fact that these mods have decided to just go ahead, lock the post, prevent new comments from spawning, and for, you know, the kind of like tumultuous, argumentative narratives that are likely to form, they just don't want it to happen in the first place. And this is really just one example, right, of where I believe the WuWa community is just a complete step above everything else that's going on in the gacha space. We know that the game looks great from these numbers, right? From these numbers, you can just say it's 7th across all of the iOS and like Android stores. 7th in mobile is amazing based off these statistics, and then knowing that WuWa now has a PS5 version and is like ranked top in like the JP PS5 stores. We know that WuWa is way better to play on PC compared to mobile, so there's gonna be a ton of sales over there. People just aren't worrying about revenue anymore. And this is the thing. It just shows a huge amount of confidence in Kuro Games, what they're doing, the business practices that they're taking. And when we know about how cheap WuWa is relative to other games on the market, where it is one of the most whale-friendly games that are available, where you can just buy 2 out of the 6 copies that you need to S6 a character right in the store. And we're knowing that the game is in a good spot despite all of these things and all of these measures that people critique it for when it isn't making enough money. That's something that the community is rallying around right now. And I've got to say, When we look at some of the recent news, right, from just earlier in January, where we got messages from Sol and Lee talking about how we're thrilled to announce that Wuthering Waves achieved its highest single-day revenue since launch, and we're seeing similar numbers from January that we're seeing over here. Boy, oh boy, we can probably imagine that the game is still doing exceptionally well right now, because in these numbers, even though they do look good, that PC revenue, that PS5 revenue, all of those different outlets that we have to spend money on the game, they're not being accounted for. And guess what, guys? You want to know the best part about that understatement in revenue? It's actually much more profitable for Kuro Games to receive money from PC revenue streams relative to mobile revenue streams. You want to know why? This is why. Let me show you all something about Play Stores, or really app stores. For developers selling digital goods or services on Google Play, and believe me when I say the iOS App Store has a similar fee, a 15% service fee applies to the first million in revenue earned each year. Kuro and pretty much every other Gacha developer, they're way beyond that, with a 30% fee for earnings exceeding that amount. And so this is the thing. A lot of people don't seem to realize or really recognize that selling goods, selling products and services on mobile is actually incredibly expensive. Somebody in chat is saying iOS has a higher fee. It's a 30% service fee just to be able to, you know, sell stuff through your Play Store. And a lot of people, right, when it comes to those rewards, all of that, they frequently do buy on mobile. But there's a reason why Kuro has their own top-up shop. They have their own top-up shop online on the website. You can just log in and top up yourself, and that makes the service fee much lower, much lower relatively to what's on mobile. And this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. When we already know that this number over here is not representing the whole side of the equation, and we know there's so much going into those PS5 sales and those PC sales, think about all of the money that could have been left on the table if the game was primarily mobile, but isn't, because we know there's such a big population playing on the PC and such a big population playing on the PS5. A lot of people don't seem to recognize that when it comes to games like Pokemon TCG or Love and Deep Space, right, that are coming in with these absolutely ball-busting numbers of like 81 million and like 75 million and just like looking absolutely massive, like complete behemoths. That's because these games, this is all their revenue. Projections here and estimations here are actually the most accurate for games like Pokemon TCG and games like Love and Deep Space, because these games don't have PC clients. They don't have PS5 clients. The only way that you can play these games is either on mobile or through an emulator. And what that means is every single sale for these games is going through some sort of like Play Store or some sort of App Store. And so what that means is that, well, what you're seeing over here is kind of like actually what you're getting when it comes to these games. And that's why they seem to have such way higher numbers. And when it comes to everything else, right, I'll even mention games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and of course, Wuthering Waves and ZZZ. These are the games that have those PC clients and those PS5 clients. And so even if, you know, you want to put a bunch of faith into these numbers, even though you shouldn't, you should recognize that even if WuWa is never at the top, even if Genshin honestly is never at the top, that doesn't explain the full side of the equation. And when we'll never know what those PC or PS5 numbers are until the devs actually just go ahead and reveal them, when we'll never know what they are, there's really no point in drawing any conclusions about the success or the failure of a game. And even when you do see some of these WuWa numbers drop down, potentially in the future moving forward, right? If there is like a character that is, you know, rerunning that's not super popular, so on and so forth. Even if you look at the mobile numbers, you're not gonna get the full side of the story. And so I'm just glad that these moderators, that whoever is in charge of the subreddit and the community as a whole, they're going ahead and they're calling it out when it comes to the entire situation over here. People are beginning to really like open their eyes, see the truth on the matter, see the truth on these calculations, understand the impact of having like huge service fees like this that are 1000% way lower when sales are being made on the PC. It's a bunch of different parts of the equation that people just didn't factor in at all when these discussions were being spawned by r/gacha gaming for the past couple of years, if we're being entirely real. It's such a pointless debate to be in. Such a pointless debate, because at the end of the day, when you know that all these numbers are based off of complete fiction, when they're based off of arbitrary random multipliers of 1.75, you don't know where any of these games are heading. People are talking about the general downtrend of gacha games and all of these numbers. What if people are just what if people just have more PCs? What if everybody just ended up buying a gaming computer and they can now play all of these games on the PC? Wouldn't that just lead to a huge downturn in mobile spending as a whole? Because I don't know about you guys, if I had the option of like playing the game on the PC, am I just gonna like pop open my phone and decide to like top up then? Or will I just, you know, buy in here? Just buy in the client. You're probably going to go for the thing that's the most easy for you to do and that's the most seamless for you to do. And so you're probably just going to do that. And so until we have research about like the space as a whole, we know how many more people are like switching over to PC. We know like how many more people have like stopped playing on mobile because they've upgraded their equipment. Even like seeing a downtrend in mobile spending as a whole doesn't even explain half of the story. And so all of these conclusions that we're seeing, again, from r/gacha revenue, like there's a post over here, you know, saying, damn, these numbers are low. Is it low because of spending? Or is it low because everyone now has a fucking gaming PC? Because guess what? Guess what happened in China? Black Myth Wukong, a huge increase in the amount of PC gaming in the CN region, where people are now buying gaming computers so that they can buy like Black Myth Wukong and play it, which is kind of like their national gaming product, right? And we all know how much CN appreciates CN products. Until we have all the full details, until we know exactly what's going on, and we have like reports of like ownership and all of that, even like the meta discussions that are being had here and had in this thread are completely, absolutely useless. And so with that, hopefully this overview, hopefully this breakdown of all of the gacha revenue numbers, specifically Wuthering Waves, and you know, all the details surrounding that was helpful. Let me know what you all think, and peace.